right now. We're going to review the 45 to natural, and then we'll get into, or the natural graduation, then we'll get into the 45. But right now, for this technique, the only thing that we would do is not put in the whole one length, but it's just do 1 and 2 as a one length. So we, pressing that, compressing that against the neck. Okay. Then we get into our 1/2 inch, like you guys told me, subsections in the interior, and we're going to use our comb to start creating the elevation using our comb to read that. You guys feel really good about that? Pretty successful? Good. You had models. You had tried on your models. Good. It's definitely easier to do this on lengths that are at the shoulders. Right? Doing it below gets a little difficult. All right, so the hair will be elevated at comb elevation, and as we start to get higher on the head, the elevation starts to gradually get higher. So our graduation is really based on head shape. Okay. Around the ear, we know that this ends up getting cut in 0 degrees elevation because there is no round that's going to make you come off the head. Right, the whole ear is pretty much cut. Around the ear is cut out in one line, same thing as this. All right. Then when we get into 5 and 6, how large are our subsections there? Because they're different. So it's no longer 1/2 inch. How large would it be there?
Isn't it a
1/4 of an inch, because
the head rounds off?
nailed it. Perfect. Does that make sense?
Why is
So in through this area, 3 and 4, the head doesn't really change very much. Pretty much here and here are similar, right? The elevation is not changing that quickly because the head shape isn't changing that quickly. But in 5 and 6, we go from here all the way to parallel to the floor in very small area, right? The elevation changes in a very small area. So by taking smaller subsections, we can keep up with the round of the head. Does that make sense? That's a really good point. I'm glad you guys said that. Is that good for everybody? You get that? So just as a review, the sections, this type of sections, we have 5 and 6 being here, okay, that we're taking. If this is our point of distribution, we're going to continue to take, this being our center part, continue to take U-like subsections, use, until we get to the point of distribution. The point of distribution is simply telling us that there's no longer a back and sides. Now we're just going to be side and side, right? Because we've already finished up the back. So I always kind of remember this as we're going to create kind of U's, and then we get to the point of distribution. Point to your point of distribution. Where's your point of distribution? Point to it right now on your own head. Because it's not based on head shape, it's based on how the hair is styled and the natural growth of the hair, right? So after this point, then I would start creating V's in there and only bring it to side, whereas when I was before the point of distribution, I would be going out here. Does that make sense? But then when I get to the point of distribution, then I'm only bringing the hair side to side, meaning I'm also to the section. Do you get that? Good? All right, perfect. So I'm going over this because this has a lot to do with 45 to natural. Because guess what the top is? Natural. Really, the only new thing for you guys here is going to be what happens in 1 and 2. Instead of doing this regular one length, we're going to be putting a stack in there. And you can kind of see that in your imagery, right? In your imagery, you have pretty much what looks like natural graduation. On the top portion here, it's very heavy. It has just a soft bevel. Doesn't have a ton of movement through there. But then you also have this area that has some stacking. So what we're going to learn today is how to put that kind of stack in the bottom and then create a foundation that we're going to then do natural graduation on top of. So the cool thing is with this haircut, you already know how to do 3, 4, and 5 and 6. Well, all right. So let's break it into, let's go back a little bit actually and talk about graduation in general. What is graduation? How can I define it? Beautiful. Textbook answer, perfect. It's a buildup of weight. So if I were to just very simply represent graduation, it would be this, right? Kind of, it gets wider as it goes higher, right? There's more volume on the top, like you pointed out. Layering is kind of the opposite, right? It's a kind of breakdown of weight. Okay? It usually ends up being wider through the bottom and narrowing through the top, right? So who has layering in the hair? You do, right? So we have more broken down here, okay? And then it's more weight left in the bottom. Round layers, we elevate it up to leave the weight in the bottom, so it's fuller in the bottom and has layers into the top. Good. All right, so how do I know that I'm elevating the hair properly to create elevation? What is the elevation of graduation? Comb, this is one, right? So this is a good elevation. If I hold the hair and comb elevation, then I know that I'm creating graduation. Okay? But graduation also exists anywhere between 0 and 45. Does that make sense? Okay. So if I'm elevating the hair, 0, this is a 1 length. Okay. Now, when I get from 1 degree to 45 degrees of elevation, now I'm talking about graduation. And then when I get into above that, then it's layering. Okay. So that's a really important concept to hold on to. If that you are elevating above 45, you're actually creating a layered effect, which is going to break down instead of build up. Has anybody had a graduated haircut before? Okay, raise your hand if you have. Okay. Raise your hand if you've had, or nod, whatever. Signal, give me the eyes. Did that graduated haircut lay exactly where it was supposed to? Did it hug the head always? Was it a beautiful shape like that easily hugged your head? Good. So here we go, 2 different answers. So Heather's was beautiful, hugged her head, worked well for her. Okay. Leanna's, when you glue dried, it worked. Okay. Now, this is a big thing, all right? If our graduation is done properly, and it's all technically graduated, what we're looking for is these beautiful shapes that just hug the head, and they're really easy to style, all right? If we accidentally use higher elevation in some areas, we could get hair keeping out. We could get it not building, but sometimes collapsing. So that's something that we want to be really, really aware of, is the elevation that we're holding the hair out, so that it behaves the way Heather's behaved, her graduated shape, versus randomly kicking out. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And maybe just this side kicked out. And we could say, oh, well, it's just your hair, Leanna. That's what it does. Just kicks out on that side, right? And maybe it does. That might be true. But more than likely, there could be something that we could do even better to make it behave.